What is up, Nerf Nation? It's your boy Normatico, and welcome to Secondhand Blasters. It is 2026, and this is actually my first new blaster review of 2026. Coming off of the Toy Fair, we are finally starting to see our new blaster lineups for this year hit the stores. Now, today we're going to be looking at a blaster that is part of the bargain blaster environment, so to speak, from the Adventure Force line. We are talking about the Adventure Force Delta Pro. Now, the Delta Pro is a Dart Zone product, so I do have high hopes for it. It does boast claims of about 120 FPS, and it is a rotating cylinder. Now, this one is new in box. I just picked it up. It is $13.98 at Walmart. In fact, this is the first one that I actually was able to see in my stores in my local area. None of the other stores have it, nor the Nexus Pro X or the Axis Switch, so hopefully I'll start to see the Nexus Pro X too soon. We'll see. Now, regarding the blaster itself, it does look very similar to other blaster designs we've seen. I've actually talked with other reviewers and I said, hey, that kind of reminds me of like a Deuce Pro. They say, no, it's more like a Blitzfire, which, hey, whatever. Point is, it's a pro-level blaster with a rotating cylinder. I know that the Deuce Pro had the longer extension to it, but, you know, it did hit 120 FPS. So it also does come with some of the Adventure Force Pro darts, which are really neat. Some people call them stealth darts because they're hard to find. I do personally think that the gray darts in grass are kind of ridiculous, but indoors, they're pretty decent for what they are, and the foam quality is chef's kiss. But that being said, let's go and actually cut these wires up, and let's get to testing. Alright, so blaster in hand, I can tell you that the grip itself is pretty comfortable. I do like the actual texture here. That is really nice. I wish that they would have done something with like having this be more like a rubbery or silicone feel, but again, it's a $13 blaster. It is a rotating cylinder, and it does not look like it pops out, so it's not like the Outlaw, and it's not like the Deuce Pro, that those were actually swappable. I do not see a mechanism here to do a swap on the cylinder. So you do load it, and it does have these little grooves here. You load one on either side, and then you rotate the cylinder like so. So we got our 6 darts, and we're just going to load these up really quick. That's the last one. Now, all of our darts are fully loaded. I grabbed 7. One thing I will tell you, though, is that at $13.98, there's going to be some things that you're going to look at and be like, ugh, why did they go with this route? For starters, first of all, not a swappable cylinder, which is, okay. That's kind of a departure from the normal. That's a completely new design. And the other thing that I'll point out is that it does have a plastic barrel as opposed to an aluminum one or a brass one. Now, my intention later on is to open this up, see how it holds in, and see about putting in an aluminum barrel in there. Maybe we'll be able to get some more numbers out of this, because a 120, I mean, in reality, depending on the spring, this might be able to hit a little bit harder. Now, the other thing I'll point out to you is that it does have this little plating back here on the back of the end strike attachment. So I'm assuming that that is actually the spring rest. So maybe doing a spring swap is possible. We'll have to see later on. I might do a live when I actually take this apart and show you the internals of it. Now, the priming on this thing, it is a top prime. That actually is pretty comfortable. It's a lot better than the... oh boy, this is going to hurt. It's a lot better than the... Ow. And slightly better than the actual Volcanic. So, you know what? I'm digging it. For something that claims to be 120, I don't expect this to hit as hard as either of those blasters. This is more of an intro pro level. More than likely, awesome for HVZ. Now, one of the good things is that since the prime is not very difficult, that means that it's probably not going to need a T-pull. I had thought about it when I saw it. I was like, man, maybe this could use a T-pull, kind of like the one that I devised for the Volcanic, which is available at the bigblasterconsortium.com website. But you know what? That's actually a really easy prime, and you know what? I don't think it's going to need it. Not to mention, if you actually put the buttstock on this and use it as a carbon, it's going to get in the way with the T-pull, so there's that. Now, it does supposedly have a flip-up sight, and oh, that's kind of neat. It just kind of like swivels forward, so you do have an iron sight. Personally, I think that they could have just made that stationary and used that, I guess, that mechanism to lower the price a little bit, getting rid of it and just making a static sight. But I understand not everyone's going to want it, so, you know, and it is there that in case you wanted to put some sort of Picatinny attachment on there, you can, and use your own red dot or something like that. Speaking of rails, it does have the two rails. You have the bottom and the top rail. So eventually, I'm sure that Xbox Games is probably going to create some sort of pump kit for this. Joe, you know what? I love some of your designs, but not everything needs a pump kit. Uh, I'm just kidding. But anyways, so that being said, the blaster itself for $13.98, it seems to be pretty solid. The grip is comfortable. It does have a nice little indentation here for your actual trigger, your middle finger, and that way your trigger finger can rest here. That being said, you do have an ambidextrous safety, which is a nice touch. I'm always digging when they put a safety that you can actually use on either side, as opposed to a lever, kind of like what the rival blasters used to do, which is only on one side. So that's something that Dart Zone's always done consistently right. Regarding the performance of this blaster, we're going to have to run it through the chronograph, and who knows. Anyways, I hope that this blaster does not come out, this review does not come out to be like one of the other Dart Zone ones. The last time I did a bargain blaster from Adventure Force, because, yeah, I didn't launch it only because I wanted to give Dart Zone a chance as a professional courtesy. Now, that being said, let's get to testing with the chronograph. Never done. Echoes of the playful fight, testing blasters through the night. Blasters through the night. Alright, so as you can see by the chronograph numbers, we hit a consistent 130 to 140 FPS. I did test with the Adventure Force Pro darts, as well as with some 1 gram Liffy Fun darts, which are basically Worker Gen 3s that are exactly 1 gram. And they are very consistent, probably the most consistent darts that you can actually buy aftermarket. Regarding the performance of the blaster, it might be a little too spicy for HVZ. Of course, that is fresh out of the box. That being said, naturally, when the spring settles in a little bit more, it's going to become more worn out, and the O-rings are going to stretch out a little bit more. The performance numbers will eventually degrade, and this will be a pretty solid HVZ blaster. Now, one way that you can actually guarantee that is by adding a B-car or a P-car. This is the plastic bearing scar that is sold, or that comes out with the Next Pro X, and as you can see, it fits in just fine. And the way that the trigger works is the barrel does push back to create a seal with the cylinder, very similar to the actual Outlaw. So, that being said, with the B-car, you got an HVZ blaster. Without it, a little too spicy. So, do the B-car, and you're fine. Now, let's talk about the blaster. I dig it. I mean, for $13.98, you're not going to beat this. It is probably the most budget-friendly pro-level blaster out on the market, with the exception of the Cricket. But I can't count the Cricket and the Solo only because you only get the single shot. So this is actually something that you could technically run as a primary or as a secondary if you're very, I should say, I don't want to say ballsy, but yeah, ballsy. You could definitely just run this solo with a primary and you're good because you can actually reload darts on the fly, even though it is kind of a pain because you have to load the cylinder in the body and you can't just pop it out. However, that being said, for a secondary blaster in a 150 FPS cap game, this is perfect. This is great. The prime mechanism, very easy. It would be good if they would have had a spring return, but I get why they don't do it. Again, it is a $14 blaster, so I'm not too angry about that. Now, would it be nice if there was a longer barrel? Yes, in my opinion, because that way you could actually have more of a useful rail down here. I don't know what you're going to attach down here. It's not like you're going to put a foregrip. Not very many nerfers are going to actually use something like this with a flashlight or a laser pointer. But it's there if you want it, maybe. I mean, you might want to go super crazy and attach a Pico booper on here and then just go really nuts, but that's up to you. But all in all, you know what? I'm okay. I'm impressed with what we got here. I do need to talk about, though, the End Strike buttstock attachment, because when you actually put a buttstock on here, you want to be very careful, and I might actually design one because of how far this primes back. You need to make sure that that buttstock fits right there, or you're not going to be able to prime the blaster. As for which stocks fit that, I don't know which ones do, not because I don't know of any, but because, frankly, I just opened up the blaster. I haven't tested anything yet. However, one thing I do know is that not very many companies make a blaster buttstock in this color scheme, so I'm probably going to be getting my 3D printing game going on here and designing something for this. So eventually I'll probably make a video showing it and launching it on the Big Blaster Consortium website. We'll see. As for other things that I might want to do this blaster, again, I thought about a T-pull when I first saw it, but with the way it primes, it's going to be okay. I may devise a couple of spring spacers for this thing. I don't know. I'm going to have to pop out the spring rest, see what can happen, see what kind of spring we have in here, and go from there. But all in all, for what it is, you know what? It's pretty damn good. Good job, Dart Zone. Good job, Adventure Force, for carrying it. And yeah, that being said, I want to thank you for watching. Until next time, y'all, keep on blasting.